I'm going to show you how to use your drone to create a smooth orbital transition that I use all the time in my videos. It's great to use as an establishing shot in between two different locations while still keeping things interesting. It looks pretty cool and it's really easy to do. This is where you use a drone to circle around the subject like a location or a building, and then it cuts to another orbital shot doing the same thing at a different location. I'll show you how to film it with your drone, how to cut the clips together, how to speed ramp it properly, and a couple of other tips to make it feel really smooth. To do this, I'll be editing in Premiere and After Effects, but you can do this in any NLE of your choice. So what is the effect? It's really simple. All you're doing is flying your drone in an orbit around one subject and then doing the same thing at a different location. Then in the edit, you put those two clips back to back, speed ramp them, and then cut right at the fastest point in between the two clips. The fast movement in between the two edit points hides the transition and makes the two locations feel connected. So I'll grab my drone and I'll walk you through the whole process. So first, let's talk about how to film this. You can do it with any drone. It doesn't have to be something super expensive. Today, I'm gonna be filming on the Mavic 3 Pro, and before we take off, you have to have a good subject. It could be a building, a tree. In my case, I'm gonna use this pond back here for my first shot. Don't you love that sound? All right, we'll get this thing up in the air. What you're gonna wanna do is find something for the drone to lock onto and track, and center your crosshairs over that. I'm gonna use this building right here. So first you're gonna draw a tracking point, and the drone's gonna try to track that, but usually it loses it and creates a GPS point of interest. So I will try to back off a little bit and force it to do that. There you go, you see what I mean? It just changed and you saw the camera jerk, so I try to avoid that while I'm flying in orbit. After you do that, you're gonna make sure you have the shot framed how you want it, hit record. All you need to do is just hold the right stick either left or right and let the drone fly a perfect orbit. I'm just gonna let it do its thing all the way around. You do wanna keep the speed steady the entire time you're doing this. That way it's a smooth transition. Once you get close to where you started, I like to fly just a little bit past it to give yourself something to cut off while you're editing. So I say right about there, we have a good first shot. I think I'm gonna use this baseball field over here, and we're just gonna repeat the same steps again. And there we have it. All right, I'll see you at home. All right, now that we're in Premiere, go ahead and drag your footage into your sequence, or just go ahead and grab both of these clips. All right, so now we have both these clips back to back. So the first thing you're going to want to do is trim the first clip to get a good starting point where the drone has already started going into full speed. And we'll go ahead and trim this off with Q to ripple delete. You're going to want to do the same thing on the end of the clip. Go ahead and trim just before the drone stops moving. And I'll hit W to ripple delete that. Now on the second clip, do the same thing. Trim once you're up to full speed. And again at the end of the clip. Okay, now we're ready for step 2, which is speed ramping. So let's go ahead and select both of these clips. I'm gonna use After Effects. So let's go ahead and replace with After Effects Composition. All right, now we have both of our clips here in After Effects. So you can see that the footage from my drone is just a little bit outside the aspect ratio. So let's go ahead and pre-compose this to lock it into the composition aspect ratio. I always choose move all attributes to the new composition, and we can name it shot 1. And do the same thing for clip 2, down to pre-compose, move all attributes to the new composition, and shot 2. Now the next step is to enable time remapping. So go ahead and right click on your first clip, go up to time and enable time remapping. So now you'll see some keyframes here. So this is the start of your frame and this is the end of your frame. So what you want to do is bring the end keyframe closer to the first. And what this is doing is squashing the clip down. If I hit play, it's going to play at about double the speed it was going. So we want that a little bit faster actually. So I sped it up just a little bit more, and that looks about good for now. Next, grab your second shot and line it up with the end of this keyframe here. And we're gonna do the same thing. Right click, go to time, and enable time remapping. Go ahead and drag that last keyframe closer to the first. Put it right about there. Okay. Now we have both of the clips sped up. Sometimes you just have to play around with it to see how fast you want your clips to go. Sometimes you're working with music and you want it to line up with the beat. I'm gonna go ahead and do something like this. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. Okay, so the next step, on your first keyframe from your first clip, right click on it and go to Keyframe Assistant, choose Easy Ease Out. And on the last keyframe of the second clip, do the same thing, but this time choose Easy Ease In. Now click on your first clip and enable the graph editor. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit here. We're gonna grab this little tail here and we're gonna bring it as close to the keyframe as we can. That way you get this nice point in the graph. And for the first keyframe, we're gonna stretch this out to where you get a curve that kind of looks something like this. We'll let it render here. But now if we go back and play it, you can see that it's speeding up throughout the shot. Now go ahead and click on shot 2. And we're gonna do the opposite. So on the first keyframe, we're gonna wanna speed that up so there's no easing. And then we're gonna stretch this one out so that it eases into that last keyframe. Let's hit play and let that render. All right, let's click off the graph editor and check out what we have so far. Let's hit play. And yeah, that's looking pretty good so far. Now what I like to do is add motion blur, which really helps to hide the transition between these two clips. Go to your effects and presets and type in force. And you're gonna grab force motion blur. Drag that onto your first clip. Now let's look at the effects controls. What motion blur samples does is it increases the amount of times it samples for each frame. If I drop it down, you can see that there's less samples, and the more that you do, the smoother and blurrier it gets, but it also takes longer to render. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at about 25. And for your shutter angle, 180 is usually fine, but if you increase it, you can see that it just adds to the blur effect. I'll go ahead and just do 200. Then what we can do is go up here and copy, go down to shot 2, click back in the effects controls and paste the same settings on shot 2. Let's go ahead and hit play and let that render. Okay, it just finished rendering, so let's check out what we got. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. All right, I'm gonna hit save and we can go back to Premiere. Back in Premiere, you can see that there is a After Effects composition. You can hit play and that's exactly what we did in After Effects. The clip is a lot longer now because we shortened those clips by speeding them up. Go ahead and scrub through the video until you hit black and then back up a few frames. Then using the right arrow key, nudge up until the final frame and that's your cut point. I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick color grade here. I did shoot this in D-Log with the Mavic Pro, so it is this gray color profile right now. All right, I just finished up that quick color grade and let's check out the final product. Yeah, that looks pretty sweet. The last thing we can do is maybe drag in a whoosh sound effect, which really helps bring the transition to life. All right, and here it is with that whoosh transition. And that's pretty sweet. All right, well, I hope you guys found that helpful. Like I said, I did this in Premiere, but you can do this in any NLE that you'd like to use. The only thing that's hard to do in Premiere is add motion blur because there's not a native effect for that. So that's how you create this smooth drone orbital transition. If this helped you guys out, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.